Well, welcome back, everyone. And if anyone is coming on and didn't see the first one we did last Wednesday, we will have the full tape available for both sessions. So I am Sue Pitts with the Small Business Development Center. And the Small Business Development Centers, I mentioned this at the last one, we're a free service for Iowa small businesses and for entrepreneurs that want to start a business. We can help with everything from business planning to business growth, marketing, and everything really in between. So we're a great resource. If this information is stumping you a little bit, or you need a little extra help, we can help with that, and really anything else as far as managing and growing your business. We will share our website soon. I think at this end of this, there's a link, but it's iowasbdc.org. And you will see a map immediately on the front page of all of the different centers. So go there and you can find what office serves your area. And we serve all of Iowa, and there's 15 centers throughout Iowa. We can do Zooms in person. We become pretty flexible and pretty available through technology and COVID learning. So I want to reintroduce our speaker. John Morosco is a certified business advisor with over 30 years of small business experience, including business ownership. Much of his career has been working to maximize customer experience while still making a profit to sustain the business. Before joining the Iowa SBDC as a consultant, John was an SBDC advisor for the Washington State SBDC and an SBDC advisor in the U.S. Virgin Islands. He has extensive experience managing restaurants, hotels, assisted living facilities, and skilled nursing facilities. He also owned a restaurant and started his own janitorial services company, which he later sold. While in the U.S. Virgin Islands, John taught hospitality and business courses at the University of Virgin Islands, where he was an assistant professor. John holds a Bachelor of Science in Hotel, Restaurant, and Tourism from Florida International University, and a Master of Public Administration and Long-Term Care from the University of New Haven. So welcome, John, and I'm going to turn it over to you, and you can get started on this Food Service Financial Bootcamp Part 2.
Oh, thank you. Good morning, everybody, and it's great to be back. And everybody survived the weekend. I hope you had a good time. Got some. You were relaxed. And especially any of us in the food service business, we know, well, weekends can be our busiest time. So anyway, today, I'm going to be going through more of a deeper dive into some of the formulas. How do we make this work? And I'm going to be going back and forth between looking at that, especially we're focusing on the P&L. There's more to look at overall, but we've been looking at the P&L. So now I'm going to I did an overview of what the P&L looks like and where these numbers are coming from. And what I'm going to be doing today is kind of going back and forth. It's like we will look at the cost of, let's say, cost of goods sold for food. And the question is, well, how do I get that number? On the P&L, it has one total. So I'm going to be showing you different ways to look at it. And also, so I'm going to do my introduction, which will cover a few different areas. Then I'm going to be talking about key performance indicators, which is KPIs, where everybody uses KPIs. And so many times, if you're new to that, you have to go and look it up on Google. What is a KPI? Key performance indicators for our industry. So I'm going to be talking about that. I'll break it down into, I have actually 6 areas that I will be talking about. One is food cost analysis, beverage cost analysis, inventory control. I won't go real deep into inventory control, but give you the basics in there. KPI for key performance indicators for labor. And then I do a KPI for analyzing your profits, and some technology. And technology, I threw in a whole bunch of things into that area. So that's the plan for today. So really, welcome to part 2. We're going to, I've got probably 59 slides, but they go pretty quickly. as we're going along here. And the challenge is going to be when I turn to Sue, Leah, and Brooke and say, okay, we want to send out these PowerPoints. We're going to probably have to condense them to get them out of here. So for this section alone. All right, so as you're going this is one of my favorite little signs that I like to have around me is how innovative can you be monitoring your operation? And, think about things differently. And I love how that's upside down and backwards there, because really that's what we're asking you to take a look at what's going on in your operation and to make adjustments for it. And that's on top of what I said last time, as far as you're helping out at the tables. You may have to jump in the line and cook. You have people that may have called out sick. And so on top of everything else that we do in this business, we're asking you to take the time to really look at your financials. Your survival really depends on this. It's looking at things and looking at how you're doing your business, what's important to your business, and it's going to be essential at some point that you really get a handle on this. Once, and I guarantee and I promise you, once you start setting up routines in the process, it just becomes second nature and it doesn't take any time at all. One of the things in technology that we had talked about earlier was that with technology, you can have a lot more free time for yourself, but you have to use it and use it properly. So you're in control of your operations financial health, and you need to pay attention to your financials on a regular basis. And it's essential to have a tight control and understanding of your income and expenses. And that's what we're talking about. This session, these two sessions is an introduction to things that you can consider and you can look at. Does this mean that you have to put in everything we talk about today? No. It means that you have to pick and choose what you think is essential for your operation. And then ask your CPA, ask your bookkeeper, ask us at get a hold of, if you sign up your counselor or advisor for the Iowa SBDC. And you have all these people that are here and able to help you. The nice thing about the Iowa SBDC is we do not charge you for your time. Yay. So that's a good thing. And the last part of this is you really get in the habit of conducting daily and weekly analysis of your sales and expenses. It's critical, because when you do that, you know what's going on in your business, and you become really powerful and confident in what you're doing. And so you're putting out great food, you have wonderful employees, and you have a profitable business. And you set it up properly. And if you do that right, that you can be sitting, your operation can be running, and you can be making money, and you have the right staff in, and you can be sitting on the beach in the south of France while your company's making money for you. That's a true entrepreneur. So, and by the way, I did that with my janitorial company. I started that, as I told you last time, because I was a single dad, but when I knew I was needed for a family issue for another company. So I left my company running, and I was out in another state helping out the family and just checking in. Didn't miss a beat because we had everything streamlined, and that's what you're looking for. Okay, so one of the things that keep daily revenue tracking. Know what is selling for your inventory, for inventory reasons and staffing and payroll levels. And some of the reports I recommend that you look at, again, only a recommendation, but number one is I push this really hard. The restaurant sales report, critical. What are your sales going? And you're looking at there's a whole bunch of things that you're going to look at within that. It's like, what was my revenue? And you have that in your revenue report, balance all financial transactions. That's number 3. So when you're looking at that, what have I sold? What items are selling? What aren't? These are all things that you can start to look at. But in this, another one, if you're giving discounts or comps, okay, review that. Who is getting the free meals? And please don't forget, I know a lot of times we feed employees. If you need to track that and log it as far as food goes and food consumed, because what happens is if you do not do that, your food cost is going to show up higher, because all the reporting parts of the cost of goods sold, when you're looking at what was used and then your sales, if you do not track your employee comps, and if you're giving them meals, then your food costs could shoot up because you're not accounting for that. So your menu performance report, again, what's selling, your expense report, and of course your payroll labor report. That is one, and that's so important also. How much are you spending on labor? And I think anybody that's been in business knows in this industry how fast those dollars can shoot up there. And it's like, wow, I didn't know that we had such a high payroll, and you could control that if you had been monitoring it in many cases. So, do the financial projections works based on the new model you create. So the pro forma is, and again, that's a forecast, also known as a forecast for future revenue and expenses. And the question then is, do the financial projections work based on your new model? If you are doing projections on what I'm going to sell in the future, where it's going, how does this all seem to work, then what you want to know is, I forecasted this and then I have these actual numbers. Is it working? Because again, looking into the crystal ball is wonderful, but then you can make adjustments. But it also then, if you're projecting where you're going to be going, how many people you're going to serve, what revenue you expect, this keeps you on track and helps you to get an entire view of your business. So take the time to create reasonable projections for your financial future. Along with that, we had talked last time about the cash flow statement, and having enough cash on hand to cover expenses is, I can't tell you how critical that is. And one of the stories I told in the previous session was, how many times have we heard, and you've heard colleagues or other business owners going, well, the P&L, I made money, but I can't pay my bills, because they're not watching cash flow. And we explained the 3 different reports last time, that it's important to do that. And I'm sorry, I left in a note. I had used this idea for when I did a COVID-19 presentation, and I apologize, I left that in, but it's still good to remember to do this often. So as we're going through, again, here's a copy of what we normally do. This is a form I use when I work with clients to create a future. What is the cash flow? Again, revenue. And then we have the expenses. These are all projected. But the key thing I run to right here is this bottom line. Here's the profit and loss. See, it says we're making money. No, it's like each month, okay, after income, expenses, and everything, we made money. However, what's happening is you'll see that the cash in the bank is going down month after month after month. That can be a concern, because again, we have owner's draw coming in here. That's $3,000 a month, which is $36,000 a year. So that is owner's draw. If you're an LLC, that's where you put in this information. We can go, there's a whole lot more behind that in the future. But again, I just wanted to mention the cash flow as we're getting ready to move into this next section. So, okay, today we have 6 performance, what's next, KPIs and their formulas, which is key performance indicators. And I will use KPIs, even though I don't like acronyms. They're here to assist in you understanding your business. So KPIs and the formulas allow you to understand the operation and be the captain of your business. and I encourage you just to really hear this one, is slow and steady. Learning these formulas and how to use them may lead to your incredible success for your finances. And again, the KPIs, key performance indicators that I'm going through today are only a few of what are out there to measure what your business is. There are hundreds of them. So I picked the top, what I consider the top for this 2-hour lecture. We can, and you as a business owner can adjust what you're looking at and how you're analyzing it, but it really, it depends on the operation. If it was a food truck, might be completely different than a full service restaurant. The same concepts in many ways, but you will tailor it to your business. Okay, so again, what I was saying before, the key performance indicators, KPIs for today's session. I'm going to look at food cost analysis, beverage cost analysis, inventory control, just touching on that, labor analysis, analysis of profit or loss, and notes about technology. So KPI, cost of goods, KPI 1, key performance indicator, number 1, cost of goods sold, COGs, and other related information surrounding cost of goods sold. So you notice I did find a nice picture of a Cisco truck. For any of us in the industry, boy, we know Cisco. Unless you lived in Alaska like I did, and I don't know if Cisco at the time, I don't think was up there. So as we start going into cost of goods sold, let me remind you what we did last session. We looked at the income statement. So remember, this was the first half of it, and we looked at the sales, and then the cost of sales, and then labor, and that the cost of sales and the labor made up our prime costs, different than many other industries on how we're reporting that. So, and I'm just going to point out before I go off the slide, because of something that I'm going to be talking about, I'm going to be talking about and showing a breakdown of how we got the food and beverage cost, the cost of goods sold, cost of sales there. So if you remember 767,443 and 37.3%, that'll be coming up here in just a couple of minutes. So, and that's what you'll see in the supporting documents, that how we break down all the areas is, again, just this one area, I'm touching on the food. We have food, we have beverage, we have labor, we have all these different areas. So the purpose of when we're putting this together with the KPI is, how did we get here? This is really your journey for the next part, is understanding how these numbers got here. And I do want to emphasize, if you have a bookkeeper or you have a CPA or an accountant that does a lot of this work, or even an administrative assistant that puts it together for you, your responsibility, if it's not putting these on the page, it's that you understand. And that is so critical. You understand what these numbers are telling you. And that's almost more important than you putting them, actually doing the work to put them down. As I told you, I used to drive my bookkeeper absolutely ballistic, because I'm one, and I know my strengths and weaknesses, and it's not a weakness, but what I enjoy doing or don't enjoy doing is doing the financial piece of, being very tedious with all the details. And thank goodness there are wonderful people that love doing that. My strength, especially when I was a troubleshooter, I could come in for hotels and restaurants, and that's why I kept getting shipped around the country in many cases, is that when you come in and I can look at these documents and I know how to read them, I know what to look for, that's where you as a manager really, you should strive to be there. But the only way I learned it was to get in and do it over and over and over until I fully understood it. And once you have that piece, it's going to be so much easier for you. Somebody can pull a report for you. You look at it and say, why is this off? Why is this off? And that comes with your experience. And it's just like putting together an amazing dish with a recipe. You're putting all these pieces together, and then you come out with one incredible dish. Well, that's what the financials are doing. You're taking all these pieces, you're putting it together into something that that everybody can understand. This was page 2 of that, the second part of the report that we had looked at. So now, if I remember, I said, remember that 767,443 and 37.3%. How did we get there? So in this case, this is a cost of goods sold. Let me just do one thing here if I can. There we go. I've got my laser going. Laser pencil pen. So we have the P&L, cost of goods sold, and then we're into that section that we just talked about, food expense schedule. Look how this is made up. Again, our sales that we had been talking, the sales from the P&L, here they are right here. So we're going into a deeper dive onto how do we get the total of the food. So we can lump all food together, but it doesn't tell me a story of what's going on in my business. So when we get our invoices, we break it down. Food, in this case, their example is meats and seafood, fruits and vegetables, dairy, baked goods, and other. And so when you're looking at other, there's all kinds of things, spices. If I get, we have this in fruits and vegetables, those are fresh, dairy. What happens if I like in my, when we had the restaurant, if I'm making a tomato sauce or any other, all the canned goods that could be in there. Okay, though that can be classified in other. Now you can break it down further. It depends on what you want to do, what you decide, what your bookkeeper decides, and with the recommendation from your accountant. And I do encourage you, remember, you're the captain of your ship, or general, or whatever top rank you want. You can have, when you have licensed professionals like a CPA, you do want to listen to them. But ultimately, it's your decision what you want to do and how you want to look at the numbers. So, but I have to tell you, when it comes down to suggestions from CPAs, I like to listen to them. I fought them separately on when I thought, well, no, I don't like this. And the thing is, in the end, it's what you want to do. Okay, so hopefully, any questions so far? Does everybody see how this is breaking down? No questions yet? Okay, great. And Brooke, since you're doing that, and just feel free to unmute and jump in and say, I have a question. Okay, so what I'm looking at here is 16.7%. How did I get that number? And by the way, the formula is going to be the same in each area as we go through. Here it is. So in this case, I'm using the meats and seafood cost. Okay, that came right back here. We got this by taking all of our invoices, anything that we purchased this food from, and that's the total that we had for this year so far. And simply, you're taking that information and you're dividing it into your total food sales. Hope you took your Dramamine. I'm flipping back and forth here. Okay, that's as simple as it is. The formula is in this case, the meats and seafood divided into your total sales, food sales for this period of time. And you do the same with each one. Is it tedious? In a sense it is, but we have all kinds of computer software today that makes this very easy. So this divided into this will give us our food cost percentage in each area. So that's how we got the total. And remember, you can't add this up and hope to get 37.3. You need to take the dollar total and divide that back into this year's total food sales. And I say that because I can't tell you how many times when I first started doing this myself as a rookie, I used to add up and say, why do my percentages not add up properly? Well, it doesn't, it's just the way mathematically that it works. Okay, so So I use the example to show you how to break down the food cost percentage. And then here's that calculation I had just talked about again. The formula, meats and seafood costs divided into the total food sales for that same period. And that gives me my cost percentage. So here you have, again, I just repeating it, food sales, and then we have the cost of all the food that was brought in this particular area, and that gave me the 16.7%. As you start working with this, and I just encourage you, this is one of the most powerful tools that you can have. So when we're, so now I'm adding one more step to this to give you information that could be useful. What is the variation of the food expense by category? And how might this analysis assist you in for your future decision making? Now, again, we step by step, I'm hoping you start to see it's like, okay, I have these total. Here's how I got the totals. I broke down, here are all my sales. It starts with doing the receipts and keeping track of everything you purchase, everything that you purchase, and all your revenue coming in. So when I then go here, I'm looking at what is the variance? I want to take this one step further as being a financial expert. If I go and look at what was last year, what was this year, what is happening, what is that change, what we call the variance percentage. Okay, so when I'm looking at, I'm just simply looking at my, the P&L, I had my percentages back here, 16.7. I have them right over here. So percentage of food sales, that's showing my cost. And then, so I'm taking it one step further and saying what's really happened. This is where you become, and I encourage you, look at your business carefully. And if you're starting out new, not to worry, you have a fresh slate. So it's pretty easy to just start keeping track of the numbers. You don't have, if you don't have something to compare it to last year, not a big deal. Or if you didn't have the records from last year, not a big deal. You start fresh, you start where you are. Okay, and over time it will build up. So in this case, if I'm looking at these things and going, okay, my variance, my meats and seafoods have increased by 1% over last year for costs. Now, anybody that's doing business or in business right this moment knows that the variance between 2021 and 2022 could be extreme in this business just because of what the costs have done. Okay, they're going skyrocketing. And so, and then you have fruits and vegetables that has gone up 1.2%. Dairy went down just a little bit. So this gives you an idea. I just wanted to, so the overall variance that we have between this year and last year is our costs went down 0.4%. Again, this is just a sample, but what you can glean from this is if in this point, if because of, I just use right now with inflation, the cost of goods that we're bringing in to run the restaurant and to serve the food are just going through the roof. So knowing what's going up and understanding where all of this is adjusting, then you can make some decisions possibly for your business. Okay, I need to switch from, maybe, and I'm just going to say, I have a taco salad that I might be able to adjust what the ingredients are going into that to help stabilize my costs. But remember, if you have a recipe, if you don't hurt the integrity of your business. And I always, things like when I would order, I use, I don't know, I just use green beans. Okay, if I'm ordering green beans, and I hate to use canned goods, but we do. But if I order, and I order Del Monte or Green Giant green beans, and the purveyor sends me some off-brand I just send it right back because remember, quality and quantity, especially the quality of the food you're getting. There's a huge difference. If next time you're at a grocery store, buy a top brand green beans and buy a store brand green beans, open them up and take a look at the difference between the two. Remember, I have quality that I'm working for usually to help my company grow. Okay, so now here's that magic formula I was about to talk to you about. Please, if you did anything, I love sharing this, take a picture of it, because this system works so well, especially with what is my food cost running, and you see the formulas. I have to wait to the end of the month till all the reports are in to really figure out what my food cost was for last month. So that could be the 5th or the 10th of the following month before I start to get those answers. Well, if things are going bad, you want to know about it pretty quick. So this following tool is just amazing to use. And this is, I have to say, to keep myself out of trouble, in my opinion. So I'll let you all decide on that one. So for most operators, the 6-column estimate is quite accurate and has the following advantages. Just so you know, I'm going to just shoot over here for a second. This is what I'm talking about, the form, and I'll be sharing this with you in a minute. So it's very simple to compute, requiring 10 minutes or less per day to get this done. It records both your sales and your purchases. And you again, I will go through how you put this together. So that puts everything together for you, what you're purchasing and what your sales were. And what happens is it works on averages. I do not know who came up with this form, bless them. I think it's wonderful. But in almost every case, by the 10th or the 15th, the averages start to even out, and you're going to start seeing what your potential food cost is for that month. So it's on a daily basis. And when you first start out, the first 10 days, it's good. The numbers are skewed, but really when you start to get, the 10th, the 11th, 12th, somewhere in there, you're going to start seeing what the pattern is for your food cost for your operation. So here's the form itself. Okay, easy to set up. Just if you want to take a quick picture of it, even I can do this. You set up, you have the date. Okay, and I would I would mark it with the month, what month you're in. So this is, you just log this on a daily basis, put it in, if you have an office area that you sit in. I know my office and so many of the restaurants was some little tiny, what should have been a closet. Okay, because, but just keep that and just do this on a daily basis, become part of that habit. So sales, what were the sales today? And then the sales month to date or to date. It's real simple. You put down the sales, and so the first day is going to be the same. And then the second day, you take this total and add your sales for today, and that becomes the new total. Purchases today, okay, and to date. Now the purchases, you're not going to purchase things every day. So some days the percentage is going to be wild, and you'll see I have a sample of this. In others, you have nothing in there. So, and then what we're doing is simply dividing those numbers and coming up with what the cost is for today and to date. So this is the format that I strongly ask you to experiment with. Take a look at it, see if this works for you. I know everybody, virtually everybody that I've had clients that has used this was able to turn their operation around real fast. A couple of the clients that I had were in real trouble, and they had no idea what was going on with their costs and with their inventory or anything. This let them see, okay, I'm out of line here. How do I bring it under control? Okay, so just real important assumptions. Remember, this is an assumption that are being made. So in order for the column to be accurate, you must make one important assumption. For any time period, you are evaluating the beginning inventory and ending inventory are the same amount. In other words, you're not adding 600 different items it's pretty, you're pretty consistent in what you're doing. In other words, over any given period, you will have approximately the same amount of food on hand at all times. If this assumption is correct, the 6-column food estimate is a good indicator of what your operations food usage is at that point. By the way, this is from Dobson and Hayes, who was that was one of the texts that I used for teaching my my food, beverage, and labor cost control class. So I did a sample for you, food cost estimate. So this was for the month of September 1st, 2nd. It's, again, this is fictitious, but I'm just taking and looking at today's sales. I had $3,000 in food sales, or and so remember, it's food to food, beverage to beverage. So you need to keep, it's easy in this day and age, especially if you have a point of sale system or even a cash register. What were my food sales today? Bingo, you have the answer right there. And then, so this food sales was 3,000, okay? And first day of the month is, again, your food sales month to date is going to be the same. I had invoices of $500 in purchases today, and again, first day of the month. So I'm simply taking the 500 divided into the 3,000. So I knew that the food cost on that day was 17%. But again, remember that this is, I'll show you how we skew the numbers. Is I did $4,000 in food sales, okay, on this day, but I had $2,000. I had a major purchase, a major delivery. So my purchases of, remember, food. I'm not taking everything, so you have to, you break it down. And you can ask also, if you have a commercial vendors such as Cisco and some of the others, they can actually run your invoices and give you a copy broken down by categories. So ask them if, see if they can do that for you. But in this case, we're saying $2,000 in food. So today, my percentage was 50% of my revenue. Okay, so it looks high, but you're not doing that every day. So 36%. So as we go along through the month, and I just highlighted the 10th, that it was $6,000 in sales. Okay, month to date, I've had $39,000 in revenue. Okay, so that's my sales information. On the purchases side of this, I have $1,600 that I purchased on this day. And month to date, it's $11,250. So what we're doing now is, what I'm starting to focus on is, yeah, it's nice to see the daily, but it doesn't mean as much as what this number is right here. So if I'm taking my food sales and the purchases that I'm sorry, month to date, my food sales month to date and my purchases month to date, this becomes the critical number. And you see that even though I'm still purchasing things, I'm starting to see that I'm running a 29% food cost. This works so well because it really gives you a handle on what's happening with your food immediately. Partway through the month, am I on track or am I not on track? Because when you're watching this and you say, for me, I want to keep it at 30 cents per dollar going for the cost of going for food, you now have a good idea, am I on target? If you have a 28% target, you can find out, am I on target there? If you have a fine dining restaurant and your food cost is going to be running, let's say 38 to 40%, you have this same tool works for every operation. So I'm going to stop there. Any questions coming in, Brooke? No questions. Okay. Very good.
There is one that just came through.
Okay.
It is, so what is the good or bad percentages as it relates to food sales?
Wow. Okay. It really depends on your business and what you decide. If you have a fast, quick food operation, the standard is anywhere between 27 and 30%. That's just an industry standard. If you have a, an operation that is a sit down operation that's, more aligned with a family type dining, it could run anywhere between 30 and 35% food costs. And then of course, when you get into the fine dining in the higher end table service and all this, it could run from, it can run anywhere from 34 to 38, 39%. It really depends on what you decide. And it also depends on what you're serving, what your menu is. So that will help determine what you feel that what your food cost should be. And, so it's variable, it changes, but you will come and that goes from, okay, I know what my menu, I've costed it out. I know what each recipe costs me. And then I know what my projected sales are. And we'll also look at this, I would be looking at my sales mix and to figure out where I want my food cost percentage. And I make a mean, it's called a that I used to make at the restaurant. It's seafood fra diavolo, which is clams, mussels, and a lobster and all of this. And so that one, the food cost, when I'm looking at what that recipe cost me, okay, I sold it for, let's say, $25 and it cost me $20 to make that. So it's a very small margin versus I make a great, one of the big sellers is a chicken parm. And I could make, just like a chicken breast that's about this big. You just pound the devil out of it and it's this big and you put it on the plate. Everybody goes, wow, look what I'm getting. It's like, yeah, it's the same thing, but we fooled them. So, but the thing is that item I could sell for 15, but it only cost me $4. So which is the one? So when I'm looking at my food costs, is what is my sales mix? I loved it when we'd have the seafood fra diavolo as a special, and the staff would come up, do you want us to sell a lot? I'm going, no, sell the devil out of the chicken parm, because that margin was so much better for me. Okay, next thing, basically this next one is when we're talking about beverage analysis, it's virtually the same. You're going to be using the same theory and process that we did back here with the food and the percentages. And I'll have some more slides, but in this case, it would be going back here to this, and one more. We're looking at beverage, this information right here, and I would be doing exactly the same. So once you get a hang of what's going on, and it breaks down, was it beer, wine, whatever, okay? And so you look at that breakdown in the totals, and you're using the same formula, you're just changing the name here, and also you food to food, beverage to beverage. So make sure that you do not use your food sales, but you use your beverage sales though. All right. And just, there we go. I'm jumping back and forth here. I hope that's all right with everybody. So when you're looking at your beverage analysis expense, managers should analyze beverage expense in the same way and manner of the food expense, which I just showed you. And then what you want to do is to analyze the beverage expense category. Managers compute their beverage costs, percentages, compare them to the planned or targeted beverage expense, and then compute the beverage inventory turnover. This is getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but these are all the steps that you would follow within this parameter. And I'll be talking about the turnover rate in just a few minutes here. So, and this is just an FYI that just so you start thinking about what you're carrying. It's like the quick serve restaurant, full service restaurant. So if an operation carries a large number of rare and expensive wines, it may find, it shouldn't say will find, it may find that its beverage inventory turnover rate is relatively low. In other words, you don't have a lot of people buying those higher end items. I know when I was trying to impress somebody, I'd buy the higher end wine but I really like just the wine in a box. That works just fine for me. But and as a matter of fact, knowing, just so you all know too, is know your products that you're serving. I had to do a wine and cheese party for a well-known poet and author, but I had a really small budget, so I did my research. And back in the day, it was with that budget, I got there was a brand of wine made by Cribari, and I had a white and a red and a rosé. I put this, and it was really inexpensive, and I put them in carafes because I had done taste testing, and they were really pretty wholesome wines for the price. And I served this to this really upper end group of people coming to see this and hear in the book signing for this poet. And everybody's raving about, oh, how good the wine is. And I'm sitting, because I served it in carafes, and I'm going, if only you all knew. So I'm sure that there were some. So know the products and just use that to your advantage by finding the best quality at the best price. So one of the things I want to talk about today too is inventory turnover. As we're looking at, why is that important? Well, here's a couple of things. And I have a question. Here's one for you. What is, if you were and ran this stock room, what is the big no-no that we have here that if I were the health department, I'd rake them across the coals and shut them down? If anybody's taken this Safe Serve or any of these other courses, you have to have your food 12 inches off the floor. So I got this picture and I said, I can't resist. They're violating all kinds of rules here with this. But inventory turnover, it sounds crazy, but you really want to be knowing what's coming in and out of your business. And it's usually you're going to take an inventory and look at what's going on at least once or twice during the week. So most restaurants do an inventory check-ins 1 to 2 times per week. But it makes sense to take count of your inventory every time you're restocking to make sure that everything is fresh and within expiration dates. So these are, let's see. So as we're looking at this and saying, I need to know what's coming in, we have something that you can use as a perpetual inventory. This is that, if we have, if I've taken something out, what am I reordering, or a par stock inventory? So if I know that I'm supposed to have 20 cases of green beans on the shelf at any one time, and I take my inventory and they're 20 cans of green beans on the shelf at any one time, and I go in and I count and there are only 10, that means that I need to order 10 to bring my stock back up. And also remember to date and rotate your stock often, so you don't find things. It's like, oh, I love to look at my refrigerator here at home every now and find treasures that I've left that have been sitting in the back of the refrigerator growing because I wasn't watching. So this is when we're talking about inventory, and there's a reason for talking about inventory. You're going to see this, it will all come together here in a minute. So point of sale system, inventory control, and they're great, especially we talked about point of sales at one point and in the last session. But again, you can usually program these to give you phenomenal information. So also, if I'm using some system that is telling me what I'm taking out of my storeroom, and some can do this, some can't. But if I go into the storeroom and I grab 3 cans of something and I take it out, the premise and the thought behind this, when we're doing a par stock inventory or perpetual inventory, is that when I take something out, okay, somebody is marking it down and I'm keeping track of what left the storeroom. Well, that works until, oh, I'm in a rush and I'm guilty of this, guilty as charged. I'll run in, grab a can of something, or I need a spice, I need oregano, or whatever it might be, that I go in and I grab it out of the storeroom. and I didn't write it down, my automated system is now garbage. Okay, so there's nothing better than going in. You can use that system to a point, and track what's going on, especially for reordering. But at least once a month, if not more. But I think once a month does it nicely. Is you go in and you count everything that's on your shelves. I have X number of bottles or containers of salt. I have, it can be, and so you're doing the food and you're doing the beverage. How many cases do I have, and does it match what I have on the electronic system? If it doesn't, find out why it doesn't match, because you have a possible problem. Is it theft? Is it that we just, like me, when I grab something off the shelf, I didn't write it down? Did you have an employee that did that? So was it spoilage? Did something break? So this is where you become that sleuth that we were talking about before. So you need to look at say, the electronic system is great, but it just, I remind you, it does not replace the manual count. And that's so important that you do. Is it time consuming? Yes, you have to wait till the end of close of business. You're tired. And usually I do that I personally have always done it on the last day of the month. And it could be a Sunday, it could be, or if I'm closed Sunday and the last day of the month is a Saturday, that's fine, because then that will be the day that I take the inventory. So because Sunday we're not open, I don't have to worry about it. So again, when we're looking at and I did this comparison before, I was talking about it. This is, by the way, in this section, when we're talking about inventory and we're talking about inventory control and some of these formulas, if you're feeling overwhelmed, say, John, go over that again, okay? Or just feel free to reach out, because sometimes if you're not doing this, you may go, oh, this is a lot of information. And what I said in the first session is, trust me, if I can do this, you can do this. I have no question about, if anybody that's in business doing this incredible work, especially in food service, you have the ability, if you can put together ideas, recipes with food, you have the ability to do this too, and hopefully find the time. So I was just showing you, I'm showing you two different things. We have the cost of food consumed and the cost of beverages consumed. The average inventory value, okay, the average inventory value here. And then with my answer, what is my inventory turnover? It's important that you know how many times you're turning the food. Is it going as planned? So this opened up a whole slew of questions, really, that what do I need to do to find my inventory, my food inventory turnover or my beverage inventory turnover? And the question, the cost, you know what your cost of beverage and cost of food is. You have that from the other report. What is my average inventory value? Well, I'm going to show you real quick on how you do this. And so inventory turnover refers to the number of times the total value of inventory has been purchased and replaced in an accounting period. This gives you a good idea. Am I on target, and am I in compliance for what I want? So I have two examples here. I'm going to give you the formula, and then I'm going to show you an example of this. Let me just check one thing. Nope, that's it. Okay. So there's a basic inventory that some people know, some people don't. And what you're looking for is here's the formula to find your cost of goods sold. Your beginning inventory plus purchases minus your ending inventory equals the cost of goods sold. And I'm going to show you how to compute this in a minute. This first step in the equation is to determine your beginning inventory. And this is the amount of product you have left over from the previous period. And I don't like the word leftover, but that's what they used. So here's this in a nutshell. On February 28th, 2026, I go through the last day of the month. I take my fiscal inventory and I do this formula. So on the 28th of February, I know what my ending inventory was. On the 28th, that number then, if it was like $3,000, that then becomes my beginning inventory for March. What you closed with in February, it becomes your opening in March. And I have an example that will hopefully help this. So we have beginning inventory, okay, whatever date this was. So throughout the month, you ordered $8,000 of additional inventory and ended the month with $2,000 worth of inventory. So I know this 8,000 because I have all my receipts. That is what I ordered in food during the month. When I took my inventory at the end of the month, I had $2,000 worth of inventory on the shelves. So that's step one, to start to begin and understand what happened during this period of time. You can do it for a week. I think in our industry, doing it on a monthly basis is good. If you're seeing that your food cost with that sheet that I showed you earlier is jumping, you might want to take this to a weekly basis to see if you have spoilage, if you have theft, all these things, and it's easy for people to steal, or you have an incompetent chef. I can remember the first time I did commercial, quote unquote, cook. I was still in, I was in high school and worked at a Howard Johnson's in Tarrytown, New York. And the cook didn't show up. I was a dishwasher and the cook didn't show up. So the manager said, go cook. And I said, okay, no problem. And I had an order for English muffins. And I got to tell you, they didn't have a toaster, and you do the English muffins in the broiler. I went through probably 2 6-packs, 2, 4, 6, 8. How many? Let's see, 2, 4, 6. Yeah, 2. I went through like 12 English muffins before I got 2 that could go out that I hadn't burned. Okay, in that day, do you think we had the cost of food went up? Sure, they put a dishwasher behind the line. It's like, okay, let's see what happens. So anyway, beginning inventory, again, that was the beginning inventory, what I just explained, is the number that you ended with the month before. So if in this case, February 28th, your ending inventory was $3,000 on the shelf. That becomes your beginning inventory for March 1st. So don't let that throw you. But you have to know what the ending number was. So during the month, I purchased $8,000 worth of food. Okay, and then we had the ending inventory when I took it at the end of March 31st was $2,000. So the formula, as you work with these numbers, for the equation, you get this. So beginning, you have cost of goods sold equals beginning inventory plus purchases minus ending inventory. So in this case, it is, you started with $3,000, you purchased $8,000, you had $2,000. So that means the cost of goods sold was $9,000. Okay, this is this is taking you right down to the important parts of that formula of my cost of goods sold was $9,000. And I know I hate to jump back. Well, I won't. But if you think back to the P&L statement, where, as far as the cost of goods sold is, this is where we start to look at all of these, the inventory control. So now I can take that and divide that back into my sales for food and figure out what my food cost percentage. So that would be the next possible step that you can take. But it's important that you know the food that was consumed. Okay, so this is knowing your inventory, knowing what's going on and what that percentage is in comparison to the sales here. How did we come up with that? This is the deep dive into it that you should start to work with and understand. Why? Because let's say if I'm looking at this, if the inventory was way out of control, or I'm purchasing too much, I'm not using it. Especially new restaurateurs, I love it that they have so much stock on the shelves, and that costs you money. So the inventory turnover, all of these pieces come together. Again, how you want to use them. In a 2-hour lecture, there's no way to go through all the benefits, the pros and the cons, but it's to give you the idea. So you start looking at your operation. I went through a different industry, but I had a client with the Washington SBDC, and they bought a piercing store, and they had in inventory $80,000 worth of different items that they would use for nose rings, everything else. So $80,000, and they're going, oh, I can just let it sit there. Well, that's $80,000 that is that's in cash, in possible sales and money that's sitting on your shelves. So you need to find a way to move it. Same thing in food. Long story short is, when you have these items when you have items sitting on the shelf that you're not using, you have date issues, you have spoilage issues, you have theft potential. So all of this, and why do you have it? You could have changed your menu, and you have certain foods on the shelf that you used to use and don't. Find a way to process them out, make specials, do something, get them off your shelf so you can benefit from that. Lean, and you really want to keep this really lean when you're putting items into your storeroom for inventory. And the other, it's, you don't want to run out of anything, but you don't want to overstock it. So it's an art, and this is just to give you a little tease into that area. Okay, then we go through, really, it's going to hurt. There we go. So I'm going to talk about KPI 4. We're moving along. We may have a few minutes to get back at the end, Brooke, unless we have a lot of questions. So KPI 4, and what is talking about labor. Besides food, labor, as a new manager, when I was a new manager, and I tell you, the not controlling labor cost the operation, and it drove me nuts because I didn't see it coming. I didn't know it was going to impact my business so much. So you've seen, again, here's the formula for that labor cost. The labor cost percentage is computed as follows. This is, besides the food, what I started saying, this is probably the second most important piece for controlling a manager can do. You've got to know what's happening in your operation with the labor cost, because it can get out of hand so quickly. So labor cost divided into this total sales gives you your labor cost percentage. Just like food, just like beverage, and now we're talking labor cost, everybody. So once you get the concept of taking this information and how to use it, gives you the cost percentages. Now I will point out, remember, we talked about food cost percentages, food to food, beverage to beverage. Okay, beverage cost, or the beverage cost divided into beverage sales, food cost divided into the food sales. Now we're at the point where labor, the cost of labor is the cost of labor, and now the big key is divided into that top number. In this case, in our example was 2 million, whatever. Let's see, I have it right here, 2,508,000. So you're taking, at this point, labor, and you're taking it all the way back into, into the 2,000,005 total sales. What we did before was food into food and beverage into beverage, and now we start doing the calculations. Everything's going to be based on total sales. It's important that you remember that distinction as you're going through here. Okay, let me go back here. So it's important that you realize there's several ways to define labor cost of labor. You can do it hourly in management, and all labor including in the payroll. So there is not one particular way. It's what you want to do and how you want to break it apart. You can do this in break it down by categories. It's up to you what you would like to do. Again, they have their breakdown here: labor management, staff, employee benefits that they put in here. That can be a debatable item. So the benefits, depending on what they are, I encourage you talk to your CPA to make sure that it's placed in the right area. There's certain things you may want in, certain things you don't. And there's so many variables that can go in there. So check with the experts on that. So your total labor cost in this case was $825,892, or 32.5%. 32 cents, 32.5 cents for every dollar you took in came out to pay your employees. And then the food and beverage, 34% went into, so 34 cents out of every dollar went to pay for the food and beverage. So before we get into anything else, this operation has already spent 66.5 cents out of every dollar just to cover food and to cover labor. Okay, that doesn't include rent or anything else, or some of the other expenses that we look at. So one thing I do highly recommend is that first, the labor costs, we broke that down. I just showed you the staff 22%. So 4-week labor tracking, I highly recommend that everybody do this. And it's tracking your labor costs weekly, and that can assist the operation or the owners or managers to monitor the expenditures in this area. The food cost, we have that sheet as a tool. I do recommend this. I used it all the time. And here's a sample of, I took total labor. You can break it apart if you would like, but week 1, again, it was 83 total sales that we're looking at, total labor cost, okay, during that month. So I knew what my weekly labor cost was. I knew what my sales were. So there's the percentage that I'm running on a weekly basis. So what's happening is like what happened in week 1 versus week 4. You can start looking at what's going on with my payroll, with my hours. There's all kinds of questions that you can answer with that. So you really, my recommendation to you, and it's only a thought and it's opinion, but find a way for you to, whatever convenient for you, track your labor on a basis, on a weekly basis at minimum. There's other ways you can do it. So if I were to kind of put this together with retail, it's like at this point you're putting on one of those little things that if someone steals it in the die pack, okay, you want to know, and I say that because you have the die pack here, and if something is out of sorts, you're going to find it much quicker. You don't want to wait till the 10th of the following month to find out your labor was out of control. Okay, and that's what's going to happen if you do the reporting and you're not watching on a regular basis. You can get a surprise at the end of the month and end up spending a lot more money than you had anticipated. And I had that with a manager that just kept putting people on staff, and I was looking, and the amounts on a weekly basis were just jumping, and I'm going, what are you doing? And why is this? I just said, why are these numbers going up? Well, I'm putting on extra staff, and it's like, okay, that doesn't work so well. All right. And then here is, so the analysis of the labor expense. This is really a neat formula. Try this out. So if you take this year's sales and last year's adjusted labor cost percentage. So if you take that percentage, let's say if it was this percentage here, you take your current sales times this, times your sales so far this year, you can actually project what your labor cost is going to be. So if you know you're running at 35%, you can take your sales that you have this year, or you're projecting, and I like using this in the future. If I know I'm running at 35% labor cost overall, And if I take my projected sales of like $2 million, if I multiply that times last year's labor percentage, I can get a good idea of what my labor cost would be for this year. It's really a neat item to have there. So analysis of your labor expense. So really what this is telling us is when total dollar sales volume increase, fixed labor cost percentages will decline. So if I have a manager on salary, okay, that cost can actually decline because my sales are up. Now, variable labor costs increase along with sales volume increases, but the percentage of revenue they consume should stay relatively constant as long as they're moving in the right direction. But this again gives you an idea of what is happening with your operation. So this next section that I'm doing is the analysis of profit. I'm just checking that. This is really KPI 5. So when we're looking at this, we have different ways to look at what my profits are doing. So this will encompass several different ideas. Again, remember this whole session is for you to start looking and saying, I like that, or I didn't like that. This is what I need for mine. And you can start pulling together what you want for your operation. The outcome is for you to get right here, the analysis of the profits. And there's several different ways to do it. And I really want to make it clear, there is no one format that is perfect. It really depends on your operation, what you're doing, and the type of sales that you want, and also the information that you want for your operation. Certain things you should know. And the key to me is being able to look at the profit and loss statement or income statement, whichever we're calling it today. Okay, and look at the percentages and just know what you're doing from there. And then looking at the balance sheet that tells me what my debts are, can I pay these bills? And then of course the cash flow statement, one of the most important areas. It's like, here's where I am, here's where I need to go on that. And also doing those 3 reports, a pro forma, and also the forecast for the future business. If you're analyzing profits, that's great because you're in business, you're looking at the profit, but you also need to be saying, here's where I need to go in the future. There's something that I call environmental scanning that I think is very important. Environmental scanning right now would have you looking at everything that is going on in many different areas. Number one is if you have if you're watching what's going on with the disruption of oil in the economy, and I won't go into, but it's just a fact. I can expect with the price of fuel that in the very near future, my purveyors, when I get a delivery, I'm going to get a fuel surcharge coming. I would almost guarantee that anybody that has their food delivered by some food purveyor, you should be anticipating that I suspect I'm going to get an extra $5, $10, $20, $30 onto my cost just for a fuel supplement that they may add on because of the cost increases. They're passing it on to you. This is what I consider environmental scanning. I'm looking at what's happening around me. The food costs, when you look at, we just had in Iowa, I don't know the number, but we had I think it's the, what is it with the chickens? There's something that they had to destroy millions of chickens. Okay, what do you think that's going to do to the price of my food coming up? And if I have a restaurant or food service operation that uses a lot of chicken, I would estimate in my ideas in what's going to, the possibility that these prices are going to soar. And then all of this comes together. So environmental scanning, look at everything going on around us, okay, and see what's going on and how it can impact you. Because at some point, you may have to, you can't keep taking on everybody's increases without raising your prices, which is a really very difficult thing to do. However, every time I go to the grocery store, what I used to pay $60 for groceries, it's now costing me the same items about 100. So, and the same thing with your business is that things that you've been buying, so you can only absorb that so long before you have to go along and increase your prices. How you're going to do that? It's a really tough thing to be looking at, but I think people are pretty savvy. They're going to understand why. So they may not like it, and you may find that that takes a hit to your business. So there are all kinds of things to be answered for that. But when you're analyzing the profit analysis, you look at your net income divided by total sales and gives you that profit margin. And you've seen that at the bottom of the financial sheets. So just a little bit, I would like to talk about that profit, the profit analysis. Looking at my profit margin is a good step into this. So analysis of the profit, again, profit margin represents the amount of profit generated on each dollar of sales. Okay, important. Every dollar I took in, what was the profit that went with it? And it's the part, it's that portion of the dollar sales return to the operation in the form of profit. So the profit margin is also known as the return on sales. A lot of companies a lot of people are using that term recently. It sometimes you see it, sometimes you don't, but I just want to make sure that you know that when someone talks about the profit margin, it's also known as the return on sales, or ROS. So you're savvy about how that works. It's like what we talked about right from the beginning. We have the profit and loss statement and the income statement, both the same, okay, but just going by different names. So just be on top of the return on sales. And I use it a little bit in here so you can start to get used to that term. So the return on sales is often the most telling indicator of the manager's overall effectiveness at generating revenue and controlling costs in line with the forecasted results. Wow, is that a mouthful, isn't it? But it's really true. You're in charge of your operation. So you want to, the return on sales is saying, here's how I'm watching my operation, I'm keeping my expenses in line, I'm generating the revenue and controlling all of this, and you are the orchestra leader, you're the one making this, and what you're looking at is, did I hit the profit margin, and or did I hit the return on sales that I was looking for, the profit margin? And the key also in here that I love is in line with forecasted results. Remember, we were talking about the pro forma earlier, analysis of profits. If you have nothing to measure it on, yes, I had a good result. But what is it if you're doing a pro forma, if you're doing your future, your forecast for the future, you're able to then say, okay, here's where I wanted to be and here's where I ended up. One of the most, I'm trying to find my right words here. I think as an industry, we do not do a good job really stating the importance of forecasting your future, knowing what you're going to do for next month, knowing what you're looking at, because again, with the prices going up, how many covers am I going to sell? I would be worried as a food operator at this moment, and I've seen this happen. I'm just old enough to remember about 4 or 5 recessions that I've lived through, that my numbers are going to drop drastically. I shouldn't say are going to, the potential is there. So all of you right now, with everything going on, okay, what am I going to do to ensure that my operation is going to be able to sustain everything that's going on? It could be as simple as, I have certain food items that are increasing. And there are certain food items that I can purchase that are a lower cost. So do I want to create specials? Do I want to do a profit and or change my marketing mix and my food mix that I'm selling to emphasize foods that cost me less? Okay, and discourage items or 86 items that are not at this point profitable. So these are all things that you can do, but you have to anticipate where your sales are going to go. So in this one, so we have a variance report, and it's an operations profit and variance percentage for an accounting period is measured by this by the following formula. So it's really, it looks complicated, but it's not. So take the formula and let's play with it, see if you can make it work. And I have no idea why these circles turned into ovals. I apologize. It got skewed here, and I just couldn't change it back. So I said, we're restaurant people, we can deal with this. So what you're going to look at, again, the variance is saying, what is my profit variance, and what's that working? So it's the net income for this period minus the net income from the last period that you're measuring, whether it's the month, the year to date, whatever periods, you have to make sure they're the same. So the net income for this period minus my net income for the last period, and then I'm going to divide that into the net income for an important from the last period, and that gives me my profit variance. It's going to show, did it increase? Was my profit up? Was it down? These are important numbers to know. And as far as not having actual financials in front of me, I have this one that we had from the last time. And again, I brought it back over and it got skewed here. So what they're saying is, I'm going to use income before taxes. Let's see which one. So no, that's year to date. I do not have, this one is just year to date current. So I couldn't use this report because I don't have all the material. I don't have the numbers that I need. Remember, net income from this period minus the net income from the last period. Okay, so it could be last year, last month, as I was saying. And then you divide that into the income from the last period. In other words, don't use this year's, and that will give me my variance. Hopefully my profit is up. That's what you're looking for. It's a tool to say, okay, my profit's up, it's looking pretty good, or it's the same, or it's falling. Especially all of you right now with this, you know, the supply chain in disruption and not being able to get food on the table. You know, I love salads. It's like, nope, can't. I actually have cut back on the number of salads I'm eating, and eating more potatoes and breads. My doctor hates me, but I love it. But anyway, the salads are really, you know, for me, is an important part. And it's just, I have to learn how to adapt and find other things that can substitute for it. So as we're more on this profit analysis, well, it's not possible to state what a good number for return on sales or the margin is figured for all restaurants. Industry averages, depending on specific segments of the market, can range from 1 to 20%. Okay, my experience is showing that we're looking at return on sales at about 5% industry-wide. Okay, so again, what we stated earlier, 5 cents on every dollar that we take in is your profit. Doesn't sound like a lot, but when we're selling a lot of items, it adds up. McDonald's and small restaurants, food trucks, I know some that make a very nice profit. So it's all a matter of volume on here. So when you're looking at this, my return on this could be as simple as let's call it 3%. Okay, that could be something, an operation that is very high end. I would expect my return on sales for fast food, fast quick service restaurant to be running higher because it costs less to run the operation. So some operators prefer to use outcome, the operating income as the numerator for the profit margin formula instead of the net income. This is just informational. It would be just, take that concept and run with it, see if you like anything. I personally like it the way they're set up here when I'm looking at my final figures, the return on sales. That's because, so as they go on to say, it becomes, it's because interest and income taxes are considered non-operating expenses, so not truly reflective of the manager's ability to generate a profit. So it really depends on what you want to do. If as far as these numbers, if you're consistent, I don't think it matters if you're putting taxes and everything in there. So this is just a personal choice, and I would really run that by your bookkeeper and accountant to find what you think is the best to do in that area. Okay, so effective managers are considered, effective managers are are concerned about both dollar amount of profit they generate and the return on sales percentages. So you have to be able to look at both of them and interpret what is going on. So you can look at the dollars and say, that's looking all right for the profit, but you can look at the percentage and go, that's not quite where I want to be. Again, with what's going on in our current situation, as I was saying earlier, my favorite line to all of the clients is, you need to do your environmental scanning. What's happening and what is the effect that it can have on your business. I'm nothing more than I just shake my head sometimes and roll my eyes when I hear, well, how did that happen? It's like, wait a second, we've been in lockdown and supply chains disrupted, and on and on and on, and you're surprised. It's because you weren't watching. So watch what's going on. And I didn't mean that, I'm not being mean to anybody, but it's just, if you're a savvy business owner, this is what it takes to run the business. So this next one, return on sales can be a positive number, and then that's telling you had a profit. And then you have the return on sales. If it's a negative number, you have a loss, and so you need to go and figure out what's happened. The bottom line is, you have now gone through in a 2-hour a 2-hour visit. We've talked an awful lot about potential of what you can do as you're going through, and as you reflect on this later. And by the way, we're not quite done yet. I have the technology piece coming up, but I'm pretty well finished with discussing the profit and loss statement and some of the concepts behind it. So as you start breaking this down and thinking about it, and you see, so now's the time for you to start taking action, even baby steps, getting things in place, because you really need to know what's happening within your operation. You need to understand what this is, and you are the one in charge of this, of your business. It's not the CPA, it's not all these other people, it's you making sure that you have everything in line to run your operation. You just take responsibility for it, the good or the bad, and don't hide from anything. If something's not working right, or you're saying, wow, my costs are way out of line. I had a couple of clients that I was too embarrassed to tell anybody, and it just cost them dearly. We got it turned around. But just, this is the time to ask and say, I'm not sure if this is the right way I should be doing it. Please, please, please keep asking questions on this. So key performance indicator, and this kind of fits in a dozen as far as a key performance indicator, but technology, this goes all over. There's so much out there that you can use and take advantage of what's happening with technology in many different areas. So now a lot of this I have tied back into the food, but there are different areas. So analysis of, so evaluate your financial productivity of individual servers, they call it day parts or other specific time periods and established by management. So how do I do that? When I'm looking, you can use the powers, and a lot of this goes back to a point of sale system, registers, however you're watching it. So you want to be able to compare actual to budgeted operation results and compute variance percentages, as well as suggested revisions to the future budget periods based on current operating results. With all that said, why do I have this in technology? You've got to be able to quickly, and especially in this day and age, push a button and get all that information right at your fingertips. And now I'm going to make myself sound old. When I was back walking up to school two miles uphill each way every day. Now that's we didn't have all of this. We didn't have this equipment. We didn't have this technology we have today. Take advantage, and what you want to do is find a system or a way that you can, as this last part said, compare the actual to budgeted operation results and compute variance and percentage, as well as suggested revision. And then from there, you can make revisions to the future budget periods based on current operating results. So if I had a machine, if I had a computer or some point of sale system that could make suggestions on how I can do this better in the future, I would be a millionaire right now. And if I had invented that, and I don't know of anything that exists like this, but technology can help you put all these together quickly so you can make those decisions. In this next slide, I'm talking about the advantage of technology. When we're analyzing, and we went through this whole thing already, we have analyzing operating trends, sales costs over management established for a period of time, analyzing food and beverage costs, analyzing labor costs, and analyzing other expense. QuickBooks, point of sale systems, use them to your best advantage and keep them current. Okay, technology has really taken us to a higher step of where we can to operate and really know what's going on with our business. And this is kind of a recap of what I was just saying. So use a system that can analyze profits, compare operating results to multiple profit centers within one location or across several locations. If you have several restaurants, interface with an operations point of sale system. Again, the key word is integrate, and to incorporate and how we're going to use this information. And again, red flag, areas of potential management concern. The technology today can take you on a real fast track through all of this. Okay, we talked about invest in new technology. So these point of sale systems, again, a lot of them interface with, and I think that might have been the question, that they do interface with QuickBooks, and some of the other. QuickBooks is one that we quote that there are many other accounting systems out there. So I'm using that as I should say, a generic accounting system, but you just need to contact this group and find out what is what fits your needs best. And I will ask, and I will make sure I send out that link to the 5 best videos that we had last time. The video for the 5 best, they did an analysis of the system. And there was 1 or 2 that really don't cost you very much money. So if you're in a situation you can't afford Square or Toast, if it's much too much, take a look at some of the others out there that do, just limited, they could be limited service, but that ability is there for you. Again, the technology of what you can do, you can order, as far as track your sales. All these things that we just talked about are just a button away by pushing that button. And again, I do not recommend one or over another. I'm just going to give my personal experience, as I've done a lot of work with clients that have gone out. They decided they wanted Square. So when I was working with them to set it up, it is amazing to me how the Square platform enabled us to not just put in the information, but enabled us to be able to, or the client to be able to modify or to put in information to run these reports that they need just by a push of the button at this moment in time. They can get all that information that we have been talking about for the last 2 days. So technology is amazing. And then over to the right of this picture, you see all the different areas, the technology. You can have it on your iPhone, on your iPad, you can have it on a computer. It is just amazing. Recommendation though, is always have a backup system. Okay, internet goes out, there's electrical problems, and what are you going to do? Oh, I'm sorry, I can't feed you because I can't take your money, or I can't run a credit card. There are ways around that. There are the old manual systems. When I was in today, if you're a hotel, they hire someone to do the night audit, and the person comes in, works from 11 to 7, and pushes a button, and the computer does everything. It balances everything out for them. It's delightful until we have a power failure, or until something goes wrong with the internet. Then what do you tell the guest the next day? Oh, sorry, I can't give you a receipt, or, oh, you owe us money, but we're going to have to come back. So have a backup system. I always, and by doing that, you know a manual system. If a lot of us still use a manual system, if you're using that, keep that everything handy, because at some point, it's not if, it is when we have one of those occurrences again, internet, power, whatever, you need to be able to run your operation. Okay, so just keep that in the back of your mind. Now, one of these that if you haven't seen it, I love this, and it came out and it was really pushed during COVID, but I know several people that are using these. Are really, it's an order, it's a locker, and somebody orders something, you put the food in, and it's refrigerated or heated, and they put their order in and say, okay, it's in this locker, here's your code. And they have already paid for it, and they can come and get their food. In this day and age, when we don't have enough people to be in our business, this is a pretty neat thing. And especially for anybody that is dealing with customers today that are very impatient and don't like to wait online. They want to come and I want it now. This is a really neat way for you to think and how to be innovative. Can you imagine in your community if you had something like this where somebody calls in the order, okay, they call it in, they pay for it, you put it, you have that order, that food order put in, and it automatically texts them back, your food order is here, here's your code, come get it. And it is just so much. Can you imagine, as I said, people in your community talking about this neat little gizmo where I can just go get the food anytime? Just think, I was laughing. I said, I'd love to get one of those if I still had a restaurant and just hire one person and have 24-hour service where I don't have to see anybody. I just put their food in. And the worst thing I can imagine is somebody that's had a heavy night of drinking not being able to put the right code in. Then I have to worry about something like, I'm just trying to make a little joke here, sorry. But this is, again, where's technology taking us? It is just an amazing journey on that. So this one is, to me, phenomenal, because I have so many clients that want to do a restaurant, but the cost of putting in the hood system and the venting system, the ventless technology today is amazing, and so many people have not heard about this. So just think of your operation. If you wanted to expand, you have a certain number of, you have the fryer and the grill and the oven and everything under your hood, and you have no more room under the hood, but you have some extra things that you would like to do. You can actually get some ventless equipment that you don't have to be under that hood. And these are approved, the fire departments and Board of Health, everybody, these are approved equipment. So ventless equipment captures, removes, and reduces grease, food particles, steam, fumes, and odors produced by vapors from the cooking process. The process of cleaning or scrubbing the effluent is done by use of a small self-contained air cleaner. So that's a little bit, here they are, folks. Isn't this amazing? You can have I could sit here in my house, and if I wanted to, or if I wanted to add, this is a ventless hood, and it's freestanding, and it's legal, and it works incredibly well. So you can put all your equipment under this, and you can open your operation without having to ever put in a hooded and vented system out of the building. You can now take what was a small, let's say an old office, and convert it into a food service operation and not have to break through any walls or ceilings. Isn't that kind of neat? And then this one is they have a ventless fryer. Okay, right there. It's not being anywhere. Everything is contained right at this point. So there are different price points. There are all kinds of things that you can do with this, but keep it in mind as far as technology, how to make your operation efficient. Let's say one of you is doing well and wants to expand. Okay, can I use something like this to move into a prime location that I couldn't have done prior to having this type of equipment, because I couldn't run a vent. I couldn't vent or put in a hood required by regs to vent everything here. But now you can. It's pretty neat system. So, and I have again a couple of clients that are really taking advantage of this. One is back in Washington, again, privacy, because we do honor everybody's privacy. And I will just say again, the SBDC, and when you're working with the Iowa SBDC or any SBDC, confidentiality and privacy is top priority for us. So, but this company, they are opening one of my clients is opening up a video. Because of privacy, I'm just going to call it. It's a really top notch, new innovation video store, video restaurant, if you want to call it. But the point was that we actually did, in that building that they chose to put in all these gaming areas and the video gaming areas, they're using all this ventless equipment, which costs, we figured, about close to $40,000 to $50,000 in savings, even after buying this. And the other thing that was a problem was because of the structure of the building and where the vents would need to go, it couldn't have been done. So they couldn't have used this ideal location if it wasn't for this type of equipment. Okay. Also, what we're talking about today is cybersecurity. You've got to really look at what's going on. And Brooke, I don't know, is the Iowa SBDC doing any seminars on cybersecurity at this point? Do you know?
We've got some off our website that you can look at and go through.
Great, because it's right on the Iowa SBDC website. Do it. Take the time, because in this day and age, you are so vulnerable, people hacking in. You've got to really stay on top of this. And it's just one more little piece. We're busy people. But, what is it that we have as far as the, protecting not only your information and not getting somebody kind of locking up your system, but protecting your clients. You have a responsibility to protect the information from credit card information and all this from your clients. And if they know that if everybody knows that you're taking steps to protect their identity and going that step to have security system, it's something you can brag about a little bit. We have, and just make sure the systems that you have are good and in place. If you're going to brag about something, make sure it's a good system to keep you safe. So as we said, the food and hospitality industry is vulnerable to cyber attack threats and attacks like any other industry. Hackers literally have various dining establishments in their crosshairs. Okay, and that's from the restaurant. It's called, the publication is Restaurant Furniture.net, but they have some great articles that I've gotten, and that's from the article that I was reading, Cybersecurity Tips for Restaurant Owners in 2022. And I couldn't find ND means no date listed on that. But so if you look up that title, you can read that article where I got this, and take the time to secure all your systems and protect your operation. Do the research to see what security is best for you, and participate in webinars. And the Iowa SBDC has a few links, so you can go and just get yourself savvy on this. Just like the financials, you've got to this is a trend, and people are breaking into everything. And you should hear what I go through. I have a security thing with it's 2 layers deep with all my passwords, and I must have 60 passwords for different operations, and it just drives me crazy when I have to do that. So I just say, so one of the just so you know, when you get the publication, I have a lot of resources and reference. Where did I get the material? I'm knowledgeable, but all of these people help put this whole thing, these things together for you. So you'll be getting that. And then as I'm finishing, I'm a few minutes early today, and I will be happy to take questions, take some time, but also time is precious for all of you. So as I'm closing here, and thank you for being on this journey today. This is for you, and all of this is not going to happen immediately. It can, how fast, how soon can you put different areas or different ideas into place for your operation? It's a matter of what works for you. But remember that this is a journey, not a race. Take time and learn the procedures for analysis, and create a list of what systems. So the first thing is create a list of what systems you think you would like to put in place first. What is your priority? And is there an area of your operation from our discussion that you feel is a weakness? And then please, and I know I keep saying this, I encourage you to reach out to the SBDC and request assistance to set up an entire financial plan. And if, I know that they can reach out to me if it's an area that somebody may not know, but I'm here. And you have, as I said, most incredible 15 locations. How many, if I can ask Sue or Brooke, how many counselors do we have in Iowa overall?
I think
There are
No, we have
15,
15? Okay.
15 regional directors, and then we have about 5 more business counselors as well around.
So you have a resource of 20 people out here. One of the best things, and not that I would ever plug the Iowa SBDC, but it is, it doesn't cost you anything, and we're here to help you. And again, except for when I forget what the question was, if I don't have an answer, we're going to find it for you. So with that, I'm going to just please ask questions. And if there's anything, I'm going to turn it over to Leah, Brooke, and Sue, and just, please, help finish this up, and let me know if there's something I didn't cover that we need to cover.
Okay, I don't see any more questions. So now's the time to type in your questions if you have any more. No, I don't think. I thought I saw one come in, but nope. So I don't have anything more, Brooke.
Nope. Thank you, John. For a few people here that are starting their restaurants, working on performance and that stuff, John, I just want to enter in this because a few of them I see are on here. The basics are: what's your menu, how many people, your table turns, and your estimated cost, or how many, what is your average serving, and how many times will you serve, or how many your plate costs. Your average plate cost, if you say, okay, $15, we're going to have 20 people over the noon hour. And then the cyclical of the days are going to make a big difference. What days are you open, which ones are not? I don't know. John, if you want to elaborate on that, on where do they start on those forecasts?
Well, yeah, and to start with the forecasts and starting with something brand new. Let's see. I think it was Gloria, just real quick, had a question about finding financial formulation software. There's a whole bunch out there. You can Google and find certain things, but just, it's like menu costing and all this. You just have to find one that works for you. So a lot online. But going back to Brooke's question, for anybody starting out and even people that have been in the business, my format is always, you start with your recipe. You need to write down what your recipe is exactly, because if you're serving, you can lose your shirt. That's an old term back from the 60s and 70s, but you can get yourself in trouble if you are serving an item that it's supposed to be a 3 ounces of whatever meat it is, and you have staff or you have employees that are putting 6 ounces, you're going to lose. You're going to lose that. So a recipe will give you exactly what that item is. One company that I think carries it to extremes is Subway. This is my personal opinion, because when they're building my sandwich, it's like, no, that doesn't look like the picture. Put more on, please. But that is, so you start out with your menu and so your recipe, because then you're going to cost out your recipe. What did that cost you? And that includes pickles, lettuce, everything, anything that you're putting on there. So that's step one. Step two would then be, so we've figured out what our recipe cost is. Now from there, once I have that, I can figure out, what am I going to sell that for? I know what it costs me. What am I going to sell that for? So that's the research that's going on next. Okay, so once you find that, you have what it actually costs me to make that item, and then what I'm going to sell it for. And then the next step that you're going to go through is taking and starting to project out what Brooke was, how many people am I going to serve? And we have different formulas and everything to do that. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to then figure out if I'm going to sell, Brooke, I forgot the number you used, was it 20? And so I can look at what I'm selling it for and how many people I'm serving, and then I extend that out. And then you do that for, let's say, for a day, and then you figure out 30 days. So it's a progression. There's a lot of work, and I'm not expert at Excel, but I can take you and I take the clients through building this out, because once you do, what we're looking for is, what is the average? When we get all done, how many hamburgers, how many hot dogs, how many salads, how many of each one of these did I sell? My estimate is I'm going to sell this number, and here's the sales price. So here's the revenue I can generate. And then I just do the magic formula in Excel, and it tells me at that point, here's what I can anticipate. Here's my average. So let's say the average is $10, $15 times the number of people that we're going to serve. And that's how you start to begin to build your system. And again, I think I did share the, I did believe I shared the financial, I have a financial sheet for restaurants, if anybody would like to go through that. So then I think, Brooke, did that answer what you were looking for?
Yep, thank you.
Okay, so it's a progression, and the hardest part is for those starting out is really, what is my menu? What do I want? And then with the recipe, you've got to start from the basics. What is my recipe? And you need to break down every part of that. That, to me, takes the longest journey, and it's frustrating sometimes, because you'll call up a purveyor, it's like, what is a case of chicken breast cost? And they may not give you the price. So then you're going to Sam's or Costco and trying to get an estimate. So that's about where that goes. So systematically putting this together, and don't take shortcuts, because one builds on another, which builds on another, which builds on another. And that's what our industry is all about. For me, just remember, please, everybody, and I truly mean this, if I can do it, anybody can do it, because I am not one, I do not like a lot of details. But I've learned over the years to, how to look and read these. And if, as I said, if I can put this together, anybody can.
All right. So thank you everyone for coming, and keep tuned to your emails. We'll be doing more statewide things like this, I think. So it was great having you, John, and thanks for all the information. And I think ending early with not a lot of questions is a testament to the details that you shared. So thank you very much. And we'll, again, remember to reach out to your SBDC if you have any further questions, and we can get you in contact with John, or we can help you ourselves. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Take care.